Good morning and welcome to this webinar on a nice sunny day, but you've foregone the sunshine and you've sat indoors to watch this webinar with us. We're going to be tackling really about MTD, and mainly Robert is going to really make a strong case for why outsourcing can help you make a successful transition to making tax digital for income tax. And maybe not just outsourcing, but other key strategies you and your business can consider to help you be as best positioned for big changes that are taking place in 13 months now. I'm joined this morning by Robert. Good morning, Robert. How are you?
Yeah, all good here, Nick. Looking forward to the next hour. Hopefully we can get through a lot of content that's going to help our audience sort of make this transition to the new world of making tax digital for income taxpayers.
I don't know about you, Robert, but I'm excited about making tax digital for income tax. I think maybe I'm the only one.
Yeah, I think I'd be checking your hard drive if you're excited by MTD, Nick.
Yeah, I think it's the flu drugs. They're distorting my reality this morning. But could everyone, thank you, lots of good mornings. Good morning, Moses, Alexandra, Kenneth, Sharon. Please say hello where you're joining us from. Maybe share us a sentence or two about how you're feeling about MTD IT. There's going to be some questions or some polls throughout the course of this webinar. So please just share your reflections, because the other audience members may actually take some learning from it. Okay. Just a quick, some house rules. Robert, would you like questions throughout the presentation, or should we do them towards the end?
I think just put any questions in the comments, Nick, and if you can sort of manage that process and just interrupt me when you think it's opportune to ask a relevant question. We'll do our best to answer it, and anything that we can't, we'll take offline.
Perfect. Okay, so please feel free to put some questions in there, and I'll build up a repository of them, and I'll ask Robert. A quick introduction. My name is Nicholas Cheney. I'm a director at Capium. I've worked there for the past 8 years. We're a cloud-based accountancy software company. I think there'll be a slide or two on that later on. And we're joined by, well, I'll let Robert do his introduction, by Robert Grant from Initor, who will be kind of guiding us for the next hour. This webinar is being recorded. Okay, so a recording will be shared afterwards. So please, Robert, let's jump into this topic.
Will do. Good morning, everyone. As Nick kindly introduced me, Robert Grant here from Initor Global. I'm head of customer experience. I am actually an accountant by profession, worked in practice for over 30 years, some of the largest firms in the UK and some fully online firms as well. I've used outsourcing heavily throughout my career, so I've sort of learned lessons on how to use it well, and when things don't go so well, what you can do to correct it. So today's subject matter is around MTD for income tax, and I'm sure many of you in the audience today will have sat in on many webinars and roundtables about MTD, and you understand the basics and the framework and so on. This webinar is slightly different, as we'll be offering practical suggestions and strategies you can employ in your accountancy business to maximise the opportunities offered by the new MTD regime. You'll also hear from Nick on some latest news around software and developments at Capium, and how commercial software is now really becoming front of focus really for many accountants on how to implement this new regime effectively, from digital bookkeeping through to quarterly returns, through to filing that final return at the end of January. Nick will take you through that journey. So I would encourage you to use the comments boxes, ask any questions that you like, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go along. So we're going to start off with just an outline of what today's webinar is all about. We'll start with a sort of broad recap and latest news around MTD. I suppose the very latest news was contained in the Chancellor's spring statement yesterday, that MTD is in fact going ahead, which is great news for this webinar, which is going ahead, and maybe not so great news for some businesses who were hoping that the whole regime would be deferred again. So what we'll cover in this section is a reminder of the new responsibilities for clients, the looming deadlines for accountants and clients, and feedback from accountants involved in the closed beta work. We'll also cover off looming HMR communications to both agents and affected businesses over the next couple of months. We'll then move into some more sort of a positive action accountants can take to flourish in this new MTD world. We'll offer practical suggestions on action accountants can take at this moment to implement MTD effectively. And you'll also hear from our partners at Capium about the latest developments in the software world as well. I'll then set out some priorities for tax professionals, accountants, and of course clients. And I'm going to cover off a little bit on pricing on that as well. So we'll set out those priorities from different perspectives as the April 2026 deadline comes into focus. We'll also talk a little bit about how you can continue to deliver effective personal tax services and reduce costs through outsourcing. This isn't just about MTD, it's about how your practice actually sets about delivering those wider personal tax services to the clients who need them. And we'll also talk about how outsourcing from Initor Global can help, as you would unsurprisingly expect me to do. So just a quick recap on affected businesses. From 6th April 2026, any sole trader or landlord business with total income, that means turnover, above 50,000 will fall into the new MTD regime. From April 2027, that threshold reduces to £30,000. So more and more businesses are being caught by the MTD for IT arrangements. When I put these slides together, I hadn't heard the spring statement, so it was confirmed yesterday that from April 2028, that threshold reduces to £20,000. So the new government really is pressing ahead with this regime. Originally, they were saying it would be within the life of a parliament. Now you can see the sort of measured way towards that £20,000 that £20,000 threshold. So really, I think all of your sort of sole trader clients and landlord businesses are going to be caught by this new regime at some point over the next 2 or 3 years. Arrangement for partnerships have still to be fully confirmed, so watch this space. And of course, businesses can enter this regime on a voluntary basis if they're under the threshold. Some of your clients may wish to do that if they're comfortable with digital bookkeeping, but that's open to sort of their own personal choice. The closed beta testing ended in March 2025. Very limited take-up, but I will be providing some feedback from accountants who were involved in the closed beta testing in one of our later slides. The open beta testing opens from next month. Certainly throughout this presentation, I will be encouraging you to sign up at least one client and think carefully about that client and software that you need to participate in the open beta testing. I think there is really good learning to be had over the next 12 months that will put you in a great position to implement this new regime effectively. And of course, in the background, across the UK, there's still 10 million taxpayers who will have to submit an annual self-assessment tax return, and that will continue. So you will still have an enormous peak of work through the winter months in 2025, 26 and beyond. So just a quick recap on the MTD responsibilities. What affected businesses must do is maintain digital accounting records using software that works with MTD for IT. This could be any commercial software, but the client may keep records and send them to the accountant, but there must be evidence of digital record keeping. They must submit quarterly summary of income and expenses to HMRC using compatible software. Now, personally, I would expect the accountant to do that after carrying out some sort of sense check or some sort of review of the income and expenses being submitted each quarter. A final return must be submitted by 31st of January after the end of the tax year, so very similar to existing arrangements. And that final return will include all other sources of income along with the qualifying income under MTD. So that means PAYE, any capital gains, income from dividends, any allowances that the taxpayer is entitled to. So much the same as the outgoing regime. There will be a lot of work for accountants to do around that final return. And there's no change to payment dates. 31st of January will remain the deadline for your final payment, and 31st July for your payments on account. So how is qualifying income determined? So for the 24-25 income tax year, as reported in returns due in January 2026, if you're over the £50,000 threshold, you must join the MTD regime from April 2026. Again, just following that through logically in the following year's tax returns, the eligibility will be determined based on a lower threshold as reported for 2025-26, and those returns due 31st of January 2027. It's the total of all qualifying income that must be compared to the threshold. If there are multiple sources, so if you have a client with a sole trade business and a landlord business, then you need to combine those incomes and compare it to the relevant threshold over the next couple of years. If income reduces to below the threshold, you must stay in the regime for 3 consecutive years. There may be options, I suppose, to make an appeal to HMRC if a business closes or if a client retires and so on. That's really on a case-by-case basis. But the guidance as published suggests that individual businesses must stay in the regime for 3 consecutive years, even if they're under the relevant threshold when it applies. So what do you need to submit each quarter? There's no need to submit transactional data each quarter, though this should be maintained each month to maintain the accuracy of data. The quarterly submission only requires total income and total expenses, so it is very much a summary return each quarter. Cumulative information is submitted throughout the year, each quarter. This was a change to draft guidance which was welcomed by most accountants, which means that you can correct any errors going forwards. You don't need to submit a corrected return at the end, after the end of each quarter if you found errors in your client's return. Each trade and each property income requires a separate submission, as I said on the earlier slide, and income from UK and non-UK property needs to be submitted separately. So you can see how all this is coming together, that your clients may need to make multiple returns, they may need to maintain multiple ledgers to hold different sources of income, whether it be from sole trade, from property income, and of course that may have a knock-on effect on the software that you use to maintain client records at the individual level. And it may well be the case that more than one software license is needed, depending on the software of choice that your client makes. So I said I would give you some feedback from the closed beta. This is very much based on sort of my interpretation of what I've heard at various roundtables that I've attended and other webinars as well. So the major issue from all this is that it is really an opportunity for accountants to lead the way. You can urge your clients to take better care and attention of the data and records that they maintain. So it really is pushing towards a more accurate reporting regime for your clients. Early engagement with affected clients is essential. This is really to get them ready for a new Making Tax Digital world that many will be unfamiliar with. I'm sure you've got many sole trade clients who are still using paper-based records. They'll just submit them to you once a year, have a very short conversation about the amount of tax that they owe. That old regime is just not possible anymore under MTD. What it does provide is an opportunity to re-engineer workflows, roles within your practice, and also the services that you offer. With the additional touch points that you have with clients throughout the year, it's important to automate wherever possible the communication with your clients and assign responsibilities within your practice to individuals who have the correct skills and expertise to engage with clients at the level that they need. So if that's just a very short, sharp prompt to your clients to do something, then of course, you need individuals within your practice to do that. It's also a good opportunity to review the record keeping responsibilities based on client needs. Some clients will be extremely comfortable maintaining digital records. Others will not be comfortable at all and will look to accountants or bookkeepers to do that monthly record keeping for them. So you need to understand the sort of scope of your client's abilities, expertise, and willingness to maintain digital records at a very early stage. When it comes to submitting the quarterly returns, the accuracy of the digital records is key. This will ensure that there are no delays in submitting quarterly information. You really don't want to get to the day or two before the 7th of the month deadline to submit quarterly information and find that your client has made lots of errors in maintaining their monthly bookkeeping, and then maybe I need to do some quick action to get those records in order. You can sign up clients via your agent services account. That's done on an individual basis. Now, please do not underestimate the amount of time and resources that will be needed to do this, especially if you have clients with data missing, or if you're taking on new clients who may have incomplete information when they try to join your practice. But once you get into the agent services account, the process is pretty intuitive. Once you've run through the process once or twice, MTD for IT is shown as an option in the agent services account, and you can copy the authorization across for existing clients. Clearly, you will need new authorization for any new clients that you take on. So it's worthwhile going through that agent services account process as soon as you can, just to get a feel for how that works and whether you find it as intuitive as the closed beta feedback suggests it is. Throughout the 12 months of the closed beta, there was a lot of conversations with commercial software providers, and I'm sure Nick will give us his perspective on that in a moment or two. But commercial software really was being developed as the closed beta went along and as testing progressed. And I believe that most providers of software paid attention to feedback from accountants to make sure that was as smooth a process as possible. One overwhelming piece of feedback from the closed beta was that your peaks of work are going to be exacerbated even further. So when you have clients with quarterly VAT returns, maybe lots of clients on the same company account year end, you're going to have a severe peak of work. And I'll take you through a timeline later in this presentation just to show how some backlogs may quickly emerge as the MTD regime gets into place. And it's certainly the case that you will need to find additional bookkeeping and accounting resources when needed. This was a pretty strong feedback from the closed beta regime. And of course, there were lessons learned from a client perspective and the huge role that they will have to play in the MTD regime if it's to be delivered successfully. Some clients will need a lot of support if they're unfamiliar with digital record keeping, and many will be resistant to this change and will take some persuading that they need to actually comply with this. Many clients will inevitably challenge any additional costs associated with this, especially if they need bespoke software to comply with the regime every quarter. Some clients really are not interested in this at all and are completely disengaged. You may need to look carefully at whether it's worth carrying on with those clients, or whether you just say, we really can't support you if you're not going to, show interest in this regime. Using prompts and automated messaging to keep clients on track is essential. So look carefully at your customer relationship management systems to make sure that you can use that automated prompt whenever it's needed. You may find that additional resources are needed in specific client-facing roles. Those individuals can build up a relationship with the client. They can contact them monthly with prompts and urges to get that monthly bookkeeping done, and then warn them a phone call or an email that a deadline is looming and they need to comply with it. Maybe using text or even WhatsApp messaging can help in that as well. One of the clear benefits from the new regime is that you do have a better insight into your client's tax position. So every quarter, you will have a fair idea about tax liabilities that are building up, or maybe tax advice that is needed. So don't lose sight that there are some benefits from this among the additional responsibilities for clients and work for accountants. And the accountants that participated in the beta said it would be a really good idea if you sign up at least one client to the open beta over the next 12 months. You can join it at any time after April 2025, but make sure you choose the right client and the right software. So what's happening at the moment over the next couple of months? You're going to see a lot of activity from HMRC to contact agents and clients about their responsibilities under MTD. So it's a really good idea to get ahead of this and ensure clients understand the new MTD IT world. And I'll just give you some anecdotal feedback. I had a taxi journey at the weekend. I was talking to my taxi driver. I use them lots of times. He's a sole trader. I just said, look, what are you going to do about this new Making Tax Digital world that you're going to have to deal with? Blank look back. His accountant hadn't talked to him about it at all. So his promise to me was he was going to go on to his accountant that very day to talk about what he needs to do. So you may find a lot of clients are completely oblivious to what they need to do under this new regime. I'm not saying that's anyone in this audience, but please take the opportunity to engage those hardest to reach clients as soon as you can. So what's happening with communication at the moment? HMRC is contacting agents now to let them know that they have clients who may be in scope from April 2026 based on their 23-24 tax year income. Unhelpfully, HMRC will not identify those businesses, just that the agent has such clients. So HMRC won't be providing any insights to you. They won't be helping you identify affected clients. Qualifying customers will be customers, that is taxpayers, will be contacted by letter in April and May that they are affected by the new regime and they're eligible to join the open beta if they're at the £50,000 plus threshold. So accountants should really get those clients ready for incoming HMRC contact and their new responsibilities if you haven't done that already. So this brings us to the first poll. So in the light of the feedback that I've provided from the closed beta, especially, how do you feel about MTD for income tax? You're completely ready to go now? You're making progress as planned. You think you'll be ready by April 2026, or you're not ready at all? Please help me. So please submit your choices. Nick, if you could give us a quick run through that while I rest my voice for a moment or two.
Yeah, no, thank you, Robert. There was a lot to digest, and there's been a few kind of points for me just to pick up on. So we'll be doing a webinar in April, which will be showcasing to the accountant how they sign up through the agent services account, how they sign up their clients either for the beta scheme or for 2026. So you can sign up your clients for 2026 MTD IT now. Okay, if you have a lot of clients, you can start that administrative aspect of it today. Okay, on the point of the public beta, there are only 40 accountants on that. Okay, so I'm not sure how rigorously tested everything was, but I think the next 12 months is going to be a lot. We'll gain a lot more insight onto those experiences. The HMRC MTD IT team are still releasing updates to their APIs, to how they want to present the tax calculation. So something similar to the SA 302. They're still getting released. So it's still a work in progress. Okay. What we're doing at Capium, we have successfully got a handful of customers who have signed up to the MTD IT process, beta scheme, and who have elected to use Capium's MTD IT product for that journey. We are on HMRC's product page on which we can do that. We are only doing a closed pilot scheme for 3 or 4 customers. As you can imagine, for us, as well as the accountant, it is resource intensive. But what we are going to do is we are going to share that journey, that experience, any lessons learned for that accountant, okay, to the whole audience, and obviously any experiences on the product, we will kind of talk about, okay. Um, Quickly, this slide has popped up about what Capium are. We're a cloud suite product. We offer compliance solutions. We offer practice management tools, which can help you kind of keep on top of your deadlines, your reminders, and your, crucially, as Robert was mentioning, your engagement and your communication to your clients. Stella, unfortunately, at the moment, we are not taking any more people onto the pilot scheme. We've already got our handful of customers that we are going to put forward for it, okay? But we will publicize their journey. Before I quickly go into this slide, I just want to quickly talk about the poll response. If I can find it, is it closed now? Okay, so 3 out of the audience are ready to go now. 65% are making progress as planned, will be ready by April 2026, and a third of the attendees are not ready at all. So a mixed bag of readiness, shall we say. Now, I suppose Robert has maybe hinted upon it, and will hint on more what you can do to get ready now. But one thing you can do today is get your end users or your clients in the process or the habit of keeping digital records. Okay, how you keep digital records, who owns the digital records or owns that process, ultimately affect how much you charge the client or for your work, and how much you as your business can make from that client. As you may have seen, we have got an end user product called 365, which will, of course, be MTD IT ready, but can help you solve problems today. It can scan receipts, it can scan invoices, it can even scan bank statements, all for one monthly cost. All right. As Robert mentioned about using multiple income sources for bookkeeping software, in this product, you'll be able to allocate transactions to different income streams. So you don't need to 3 or 4 different subscriptions maybe for one customer. This will also post through into our MTD IT product, which will allow you to make the quarterly filings. Okay, and then you could do your final submission through that MTD product. Okay, that's just a high-level overview. If you're interested in the 365 product, please go to Capium's website. There's a demo link there as well. Yeah, lots of benefits of 365. There's lots of features. You can read for yourself, okay, what it does. But ultimately, we want your clients to use this tool to do digital record keeping. Otherwise, you guys are going to have to do that, and you might have to increase your fees accordingly, which I think Robert will touch upon in a moment or two. Okay, which is going to be a great opportunity to hand the baton back over to you, Robert.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you, Nick. So yeah, I mean, welcome news that it looks like Capium are offering a sort of one place shop for all your MTD IT needs. You won't need to take out multiple licenses or different softwares. It's an end-to-end journey, which I think, yeah, that's the ideal solution for most accountants.
You should work for us, Robert.
Yeah. So having heard from our experts at Capium, how do you propose to deliver your MTD IT bookkeeping and submission of data services to HMRC? So this is our second poll. And we sort of split this across 3 scenarios. So do you think your clients will maintain records using any commercial bookkeeping software they choose, and your practice will file quarterly returns using their own commercial software? Could be Capium, others are available. My practice will provide bookkeeping and quarterly filing services in-house using our commercial software. And the third option, really from a sort of an outsourcing viewpoint, are you thinking about outsourcing bookkeeping and or quarterly filing work? So yeah, I think it's worthwhile just having a think about those different scenarios, and let us know which one you think most applies to you.
Brilliant, Robert. And I think really where these questions have come from, I think is from our shared experience, is where we've spoken to accountants about the kind of conversations they're having out loud and with other accountants about how they're going to tackle the additional work that MTD is unfortunately or ultimately going to bring for the accountant.
Okay.
So let's see.
How's the poll looking?
All right. So right now, okay. So far ahead, really, with 2/3 of the audience would be that my practice will provide bookkeeping and quarterly filing services in-house using our own commercial software for both. 20% say clients maintain records themselves and whatever software they choose, and then the practice would take ownership for the filing, and then the remaining 20% are thinking about outsourcing bookkeeping work or quarterly filing. So yeah, there's
good.
quite good insight.
Yeah. So it's clear that most of the audience have been thinking carefully about the software options available to them. But of course, a big part of this is service delivery as well to complement the software arrangements. So I'll take a couple of slides now just to talk about the MTD framework and how it's changed over the last sort of 12 or 18 months. And it's worth pointing out that HMRC, you may not believe it, but they have actually been listening to feedback throughout the closed beta process, and they've made some adjustments to the regime. So it's really important you keep yourself up to date. I would recommend having a look at the Treasury website. Even from yesterday's spring statement, there were a couple of nuggets in there about MTD. So yeah, keep yourself abreast of any of these changes. Some easing of the requirements over the last few months. There's no requirement now to submit an end of period statement. That's now been dropped. It was seen as duplication. Quarterly returns are now on a cumulative tax year to date basis rather than a standalone basis. Welcome news for accountants. You don't have to submit corrections to a previously filed return. You can just correct any errors in a future return. At a very detailed level. Oh, sorry, is there a cross line?
No, I can't hear anything.
Sorry. Okay, sorry, maybe at my end. Sorry, I'll persevere. Foster carers outside the scope based on their qualifying care income. And it's worth looking at the Treasury guidance on exemptions because they have made a couple of changes around that are published along with the spring statement. So I won't go into them, but there are some exemptions and deferrals that you need to look at if any of your clients are affected. Landlords can choose not to submit a quarterly update of expenses for jointly owned properties. This recognises that some landlords don't allocate expenses between those who own the property until towards the end of the tax year. So that really makes the sort of final quarterly submission and the final tax return submission really important for your landlord clients who may jointly own a property. So need to understand how those arrangements are going to work. More than one agent login is allowed. That recognises that you may have a bookkeeper carrying out work on the monthly sort of bookkeeping and data collection and so on. And you may have an accountant doing the quarterly returns and the final return. Detail awaited on how that's going to work in practice, but welcome news that more than one agent login is allowed on a client account. And a very sort of a technical change, businesses may elect to report on a calendar quarter basis. So first quarter ended 30th of June rather than the 7th of July. And so it's worth keeping yourself abreast of some of these changes that are continually published by HMRC and Treasury. Now, I said I would sort of give you a sort of idea of how the timeline works for MTD for IT, some key milestones and deadlines coming up. So if we look ahead to the end of January next year, you'll all be working hard on the old regime self-assessment tax returns. You'll have that inevitable peak of work between November and January for the 24-25 tax year. But look what happens as the new tax year commences, April 2026. That's when the digital bookkeeping digital record keeping is maintained. 7th August is the first quarterly filing. And then 7th November is the second quarterly filing. But meanwhile, all of your clients will still be preparing their self-assessment tax return under the old regime as well for the 25-26 tax year. So you can begin to see how this work stacks up between November through to January and then through to February. So you really don't have much time to get yourself ahead of the curve for these first quarterly returns, and also to see the old regime out for certain clients. So think carefully about how you're going to manage that peak in work. And then, of course, you move into the regime for good, May 2027, your fourth quarterly filing, and then you go through to your final submission, which will be the first one under MTD for some of your clients. So please be aware that you're facing some pretty severe peaks in work coming up over the winter months of 2026 into 27.
Can I just jump in there, Robert? So John Ross, you asked a question about the 1st of April for the 31st of March. That's probably so. I incorrectly informed you. That is the best thing to do, okay? Because in MTD, you can elect for calendly quarters, okay? If you don't elect for a calendly quarter, you need to make an additional submission, okay, at the end of the year for the dates between the 1st of April and the 6th of April, okay? So at the beginning of your MTD IT journey, you should elect for calendar quarters. So John, if your clients are already the majority like that, great. But to everybody else out there, when you start using software for the first time, I would really recommend you elect for the calendar quarters. Otherwise, you've got to do an additional return capturing your income and expenses just those 5 days. Sorry, Robert.
Yeah, no, well, that's really good advice. As I say, the devil is always in the detail on these things. So yeah, familiarising yourself with the guidance and immersing yourself in it is really important, over these coming months. We had a couple of questions about the points-based penalty system. There won't be any penalty points if you enter the open beta and you miss a deadline. So again, that's worth knowing. But once you're in the regime for real, the taxpayer accumulates points at the individual taxpayer level. It's completely separate to VAT if your clients are registered for MTD for VAT. 1 point is accrued by the taxpayer every time a filing deadline is missed. So £200 penalty when a points threshold is reached and for every subsequent failure. So I'll read this out, but there's a 2-point threshold for missing an annual obligation. That's your final tax return. So if you miss 2 final tax returns or you're late with them, 2-point threshold, you begin accruing penalty points and fines. 4-point threshold for missing a quarterly obligation. So if you don't file anything in a year, at the end of that year, then you'll get the total of 4 points and you begin accruing penalties as well. We come back to this point about multiple businesses and multiple returns that are needed for each business. You accrue 1 set of penalty points. So you have 2 businesses, you miss 2 deadlines, it's 2 points. So the penalties at the taxpayer level. They do expire after a couple of years of compliance for annual returns and for a year of quarterly returns. And late payment penalties are on a sliding scale up to 4% of tax owed. I think the main takeaway from yesterday's spring statement and also announcements back in the October budget is that this government is really looking at ways of raising revenue from missing tax deadlines or avoiding tax payments and tax evasion as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if HMRC and the Treasury look carefully at the level of fines that are being imposed for missing deadlines. So please, keep an eye out for any new announcements on this, even before the new regime starts. So I said this would be a... Sorry, go on.
Sorry. David Seymour asks, will a property earning 20 grand turnover be split 10K each if owned husband and wife? Yes, David, like it's their own income. So see how you're filling an SA 100 form. I think it's the SA 102,
Yeah.
103, and 106. I think.
Yeah.
You split the income based on the percentage of ownership of the property or the income source. That's similar for MTD IT. Okay. You'd also be recording transactions based on your split of ownership as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, it's I see quite a few bleak comments in the chain. Yeah, I don't think we're finished as accountants, but yeah, it's going to be a challenge, and that's why we're here to help you. So here's some positive action that you can take. Most of the webinars I've attended and roundtables listening to accountants, segmenting your client database. If you haven't done it already, do that as quickly as you can. Think about how clients keep their records now. Even do a red, amber, green approach to who are clients that are comfortable with record keeping to those who are not. And identify those clients which need most help with this transition. So very simple segmentation will give you some comfort that at least you understand where each of your clients are in relation to their MTD preparedness. Please contact your clients who are due to receive letters from HMRC. You don't want any surprises. So if you've had a notification from HMRC that you have clients, have a look at your database and get in touch with those clients right away. Understand how your clients maintain records. Paper records are no longer accepted. So you need to get them onto at least a spreadsheet approach or a very simple digital bookkeeping software approach as soon as you can. Get them comfortable using this new technology for some of them. And get them ready with that appropriate software that's going to be NTD compliant as well. Embed those data collection processes now as the new tax year commences. So learn any lessons from your last tax season around which clients are difficult to get data from, which clients are very slow to communicate with you or respond. Just understand what's going on around how you communicate with your clients at this early stage. And aim for early completion and filing of 24-25 and 25-26 returns to avoid those bottlenecks I highlighted in the timeline that I set out in one of the earlier slides. Where you can, make sure communication is systematic. Use SMS text, automated emails, WhatsApp, anything that just gets your clients ready for a looming deadline has got to help. And think carefully about your customer relationship management system. Is it fit for purpose? If you don't have one, think about investing in one. I know Capium do sort of integrated CRM and software, so it's worth looking at that. There are other software providers available. In terms of other action you can take, gatekeep your prospects. We're always looking for new clients to come into a practice, but please check their eligibility for MTD and any support that they need. It's important to get this conversation out of the way at the earliest possible stage so that you can say no to a client you feel isn't going to fit with your practice culture and your practice arrangements. Identify those clients hitting the new thresholds going forwards. April 2028, £20,000. Almost all of your sole trade or landlord businesses are going to be affected at some point in the next 3 years. Test those workflows to death and use your software to submit those quarterly returns. Get yourself comfortable and into this rhythm of monthly bookkeeping, quarterly returns, submission. Join the open beta if you can. Look carefully at your resources and how those services are delivered. You may have to reconfigure how some services are provided. And of course, review your service packages and your pricing according to your client's needs. I think more positively, MTD does offer many opportunities to scale your business and grow by offering these new services that clients may need. Once you get over that initial remodeling of service delivery, please consider outsourcing as part of that process. I'll come on to some of our scale of fees and how those affect your various grades of staff over the next couple of slides. But it might be time to think about how you introduce outsourcing into your practice, not just for MTD, but for year-end accounts, VAT preparation, that sort of thing. And of course, there is action that you can take to help clients. We've talked about the open beta. Well, the Capium, are pressing ahead with that, and have told us that they will feed back the results of that. Aim to get at least one of your clients on it if you have the resources to do so. Get your clients comfortable using bookkeeping software, especially if they've never used it at all. Make a decision on your MTD compatible software and get that in place as quickly as possible. Quarterly record keeping, get clients into that routine with automated reminders. And a big role you have to play here as accountants is the learning and knowledge. Think about offering online training for clients. Blogs are always helpful, or articles on your website. We publish a lot on the Initor website. I know Capium do the same, but there's a real opportunity here around building the learning and knowledge of your clients. Compliance is key. It's the key to avoiding penalties, and it's the key to keeping your clients on the straight and narrow, as it were, with their new responsibilities. I mentioned exemptions. They're probably unlikely to apply to most of your clients. There are exemptions for digital exclusions, maybe a lack of a national insurance number and so on. You need to look at that on a case-by-case basis and speak to HMRC about that, on whether any of your clients are in fact exempt from the new regime. I mentioned we would talk about pricing, and again, this is feedback from accountants involved in the closed beta. And also, I know Capium has been running a number of roundtables to talk to accountants about how they plan for increases going forwards. And the range we're coming back with is some clients are thinking about an increase of 50%, some up to 150%. So there's a full range of increases there that you need to be mindful of. Clearly, you will need to decide what's most palatable to your clients, and also what will maintain your margins as a practice. The pricing will be driven by the digital record keeping responsibilities, the compliance risks of quarterly filing failures, and software costs. So you need to look at each client individually when you're setting your pricing regime for them. And it's also the opportunity to realise the benefits of investment in cloud-based software, document storage arrangement, access to records. These are all things that you can consider when you're setting your prices, and there are opportunities for efficiencies when you're doing that. Clients will no longer maintain paper records. You will have instant access to them. So maybe an opportunity to shave a bit off your prices there as well. Think about options for clients based on a self-serve basis, partial self-service, right up to full bookkeeping and accountant service. And that's where outsourcing can help if you want to get that monthly bookkeeping completed offshore. And you should be laying the ground now to implement MTD fee increases and new fee structures, and updating your engagement letters accordingly. Really important there are no surprises for your clients, and if there are increases, they're advised of them as early as possible. So that takes us on to a third poll. Having heard the various suggestions on pricing, how do you expect to increase your prices for affected businesses by? Are you not going to increase at all, up to 50%, 51 to 100%, or the 150% plus increase? So give us your answers now, and we'll share the outcome.
Thank you for that, Robert. I know a lot of people who, Sharon, I know you personally. I know you said that you think your business is doomed, or how you operate is doomed. But I don't know if you want to take solace from this. But if you are going to have a discussion with the client about fees and how to tackle this, or using bookkeeping software, and they go, "No, I don't like it," they're going to go to another accountant. And guess what? The accountant is going to propose exactly the same thing. What Robert has presented and what we have presented is outsourcing is one way that you can reduce costs, and by that reduce the pricing to clients. Using a bookkeeping software is one way you can get your clients to use that, is one way, and getting them to pay for it is one way to reduce the costs that the clients will pay. But just picking up on this poll question is, accountants are going to increase the prices. Use this as a once in a generation opportunity to redress the race to the bottom that self-assessment has become, And I know change is scary, but by doing small steps now, you really can change your practice and turn clients from being a once a year relationship to maybe a monthly direct debit. Yeah, you may lose some clients along the way, but those who know your value and know that actually you're shooting the messenger here, it's government mandated change. Those who know you do good service and are trying to help them will continue on that journey with you. Hence why I'm positive. I may not look positive because I'm dosed up at the moment, but hence why I am positive about it. And look, this is from a software company who's been burnt twice from the delay of the implementation of it, right? You might think we got an opportunity to get more revenue. We've sunken in hundreds of thousands of pounds in costs for it to be delayed twice. So we're just as burnt as you are.
I don't think you're helping here, Nick. But what's the third poll telling us?
Yeah, quickly onto other things. So the majority of our audience is going to be doing up to 50% price increase.
Okay.
A third are going to be doing 51% to 100% increase. 5% is going to do 150% increase, and about 20% aren't going to do with no fee increase. Just for those who aren't doing a no fee increase, please take inspiration from those who are going to do up to 50%, 51% more, and 150%. If you do no fee increase, you're really selling yourself short, and you're just putting pressure on yourself as a business owner to offer more or not pay for it.
Okay, so I'll move into the final part of the presentation. So this is really about how outsourcing can help you at the detailed level. So just thinking about some of the MTD work you can outsource, well, from April 2026, or even next year if you want to get clients comfortable with the regime. Monthly data collection, bookkeeping, any commercial software we can deal with. You can use an outsourced bookkeeper for that. Clearly benefits around workflow management, compliance and quality assured. We can also update HMRC compatible software on a quarterly basis. Our bookkeepers could do that for you as well. Timely and accurate record keeping, just one of the benefits, and early warning of any issues. We are able to file summary information after you guys have reviewed it. You may wish to do that yourself, but we would expect an accountant to do that just to make sure all the expenses are allowable and the income is complete. This ensures your deadlines are met and data quality assured. We prepare final returns at the moment under the old regime, under self-assessment tax return. Our tax accountants do that. We do that on a price per return basis or on an hourly basis if you want us to do more complex returns as well. That helps you manage your peak of work. We would expect the onshore accountant to do the final filing of the return. I think that makes sense, just that the onshore accountant retains ownership of that and any sort of final issues with a client around tax liabilities can be dealt with as quickly as possible. But we can help you build capacity to complete that work. Other personal tax work that you can outsource now around HMRC registration, we can help with that. Data collection, tax computations, SE 800 completion for partnerships, SE 100 preparation for individuals. Prior period returns, we're seeing more and more of that. There is a whole industry around historic expenses for PAYE taxpayers. So we're helping with that. You can go back 3 or 4 years on that. So that's helpful as well. HMRC queries, if you haven't got the time to stand in a queue or wait for the HMRC chatbot, we can do that for you as well and deal with any queries. And finally, some of that filing of quarterly submissions we can help with. There are, of course, wider benefits of outsourcing work. I'm sure you're well aware of these. We can help fill resource gaps, manage peaks of work. You will have access to a pool of talented professionals. You'll have tax expertise when you need it. And we have admin support to contact HMRC and clients just to release your own accountant's time to make sure that that's assigned appropriately. We have reduced costs, and I'll show you a slide on that in a moment. It also helps with your pricing strategies. So if you use outsourcing, you can have a more effective approach to pricing that's a bit more sustainable. You can make the most of your cloud-based technology by outsourcing. We can access your accounting software in the cloud, or even access your servers as well if you want us to maintain client records. We are quality and compliance assured. Most of our guys are either studying towards a qualification or are ACCA qualified for a number of years. And also you can build on existing outsourced experiences as well. So there are a number of benefits to outsourcing work. If you're familiar with Initor Global, we do have a free trial, no obligation. We'll do a couple of self-assessment tax returns for you. Turn that around really quickly. You've got experienced professional teams, fixed prices throughout the contract, effective onboarding, data security, always assured, GDPR compliant, and ISO 27001 accredited as well. So a lot to get through there. I said I would share some special rates. I don't need to go through all of these, but it just gives you a flavour of the resources we have available and the monthly cost. And for accountants and bookkeepers, we have hourly rates. These rates are only available to those attending the webinar. So if you do want to talk to us about those rates, happy to do that. But as you can see, they're extremely competitive compared to other outsourcers, and of course, compared to a UK resource, then they are, extremely good value. And just to put that into something a bit more visible, using the Hays salary trends published last year, if you look at a London FTE, for instance, cost of a qualified senior accountant in London, £50,000, we can provide an equivalent resource on an outsourced basis for about half of that. So substantial savings. Semi-senior accountants, those tend to be those, very close to qualification, newly qualified, again, about 50% saving as well. Bookkeepers, again, substantial savings available when you compare to FTE in London. Of course, there are other regional variations, but our prices remain fixed throughout the period of a contract. So our final poll, as we draw the webinar to a close, just really, would you like us to get in touch with you? So yes, please, sometime over the next 12 months, or if you don't need us to contact you, that's fine. Just let us know, and we'll be mindful of that. So if you don't mind giving us some quick feedback, that would be very helpful.
Brilliant, Robert. And whilst I leave that last poll to kind of get some responses, just to address a few aspects really from some of the Capium customers on this meeting webinar. In the self-assessment module, we are releasing on Friday the ability to pull a report based on the income on the SA 103, 105, 106, and it'll give you a total income for those boxes. Based on that, it'll be based on the previous year's submission, and based on that, you'll be able to see who's likely to fall into MTD IT in year 1 and year 2, and then that will update at the end of each tax year. Okay. Let's see, any other questions? Anita, you mentioned about considering the challenge of assisting pensioners with tax returns who may not be familiar with computer usage, coupled with the requirement for them to pay a significant higher fee for your services. It's a very difficult situation, but you're a business, and again, you're not mandating the change, so I think, you should have to think about that client. To be fair, it's not an easy for. Anything you've got to say on that, Robert?
No, I mean, it's you need to look at each client on the basis of their needs. I mean, there may well be a strong case that you could make to HMRC that you have clients who are digitally excluded, they can't comply with the regime. That might be an option, but yeah, all you can do is help that client as much as you can.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Okay.
Any other questions before we close up, gang? Thank you for the engagement. Thank you for those posting questions. in the chat. Sharon, yes, you have to tackle it now. Have these conversations now. That's the only. I'm not saying I can solve the issue for you. The change is coming. You just got to tackle it earlier. Have those conversations. Start educating workshops and how to use. There's loads of advice out there. I'm not saying it will solve all of your problems, but it's a starting point. You know, Robert's presented outsource as one of them. Bookkeeping software is another one. End users using the bookkeeping software or then paying the costs. You know, and if they go, well, you're too expensive, then if they go to another vendor who may be using Xero, QuickBooks, it could be triple your price. So have confidence, and then based on the relationships and you've built up over those years to be able to say to the clients, trust me, I'm not doing this for profiteering. I'm doing this in order to offer a value-based service for your own in-business interests.
Yeah, I think, I wholeheartedly agree with all of that, Nick. And, you know, just to concluding remarks, we've now moved away from the conceptual MTD, hoping it goes away. You now need to get ready for it. It's going to happen. So please think about some of the messages from today. From the client side, joining the open beta has some advantages. We've been promised there's a specialist HMRC team. You won't have to wait in long queues to discuss any issues you have. So maybe an edge you can gain there. I've talked at length about how clients may be affected and how you need to look at clients carefully and your own resources as well. But please think about how outsourcing can help. It's a ready-made solution for you. It can smooth your transition to April 2026. I've highlighted there's going to be peaks of work over the next couple of winters. Think about how outsourcing can help. Use it as a lever to reduce your cost base and also increase your efficiency. That goes into your pricing regime, of course. And of course, it helps you secure the benefits from your investment in new technologies like this new software you're going to have to bring in, like your cloud-based software, like your automation. So that's all I have to say about it, Nick. Thanks for your guardianship today. It's been very helpful, and to Mimi for managing the polls. There's some contact information if you need it. But I think you've heard enough from me today. So over to you, Nick, to close.
No, and I think I would just reiterate what Robert said about using outsourcing. There's 4 or 5 different methods or strategies that you can tackle MTD IT. We've highlighted them all. Any other webinar that you attend to or white paper are all going to reiterate the same points here. So you just got to look upon which ones is best suited for your practice and begin thinking, dedicate an hour a week to MTD IT, how you can implement it. You know, quickly, a few questions about 365. It will integrate with the rest of our product suite. You'll be able to make VAT returns through it if they're VAT registered. It will have auto bank reconciliation. There'll be loads of webinars, loads of content coming out about that in a not too distant future. Thank you so much, Robert. I hope we've tried our best to tackle this subject with a sprinkling of optimism and realism. You know, but if there's one takeaway is don't put your head in the sand, start tackling it today, having conversations today about it. All right. And of course, I've shared mine and Robert's LinkedIn. There's email addresses here. If you want to have a bit more of a conversation about us, we're happy to help. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you even just have a chat through some of the issues I've talked about today, I'm happy to do that. You've got my contact details. No obligation. I'm happy to chat through MTD and what it means for your practice. Happy to do that.
Brilliant. The slides will be getting shared. The webinar will be getting shared. So don't worry if you didn't catch everything. Okay. All right. Cheers, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm sure we'll see you soon. Cheers, gang.
Bye.
Bye.